So this presentation is really about a patient that we cared for right at the very beginning of my kind of ACP role, and she took quite a long journey of her pregnancy, and it was really interesting in terms of her intake, her perception of how the role helped her through her pregnancy. So it was a real nice kind of feedback from her, and she agreed to then be videoed in terms of talking about it. So I think it's just a really nice fitting end to this day to show you where the journey can take you in terms of how the patient experiences as well. So this patient, just a little bit of background behind her. She was a primate. She's 38-year-old. She was very low risk at booking. She had no medical histories, no regular medications, no allergies. She was a really fit and healthy person. She ran lots of marathons. Obviously, she didn't smoke. She was a picture of health. So that was kind of her background. And then when we first started seeing her, she had a 12-week scan, which was absolutely fine, low risk anomaly scans, and the placenta was in a normal kind of location. At 19 weeks, she unfortunately got COVID. She didn't need to come to hospital, but she kind of experienced those coughs, the headaches, and that malaise that first COVID infection brought with it. At 25 weeks, as she just got over that COVID infection, that ongoing kind of malaise that she then became positive with flu A. So obviously her immune system was just so incredibly low. She was just picking up every single infection that was going around, every single virus that was going around. Once again, she was really unwell, but didn't require hospital admission. But she was seen in triage as she had reduced fit movements, and then because of her raised temperature. But we managed to kind of conservatively manage her in terms of keeping her at home rather than having to be admitted. 26 weeks, so a week later, after having kind of this COVID infection, the flu virus, she then suffered from having severe eye ulcers, and they developed due to this ongoing virus, this low immunity. She required emergency daily eye hospital treatment, and then she had to have weekly reviews, and she was in so much pain with these eyes. 29 weeks, she then experienced a family trauma and a significant loss of a really close relative. And this, I think, on top of everything else within that very close time frame, just really hit her for six in terms of her immunity and her experience in this pregnancy. So between 30 and 32 weeks, she had multiple triage admissions for raised blood pressure, proteinuria. She had ongoing frontal headaches and visual disturbances. She was referred back to the ophthalmologist due to the eye ulcer and visual issues. And there was no sign of any retinal detachment or papilledema that they could see either. And it was thought to be from the eye ulcers that was causing these kind of visual disturbances. At 33 weeks, the headaches continued. She required kind of new medication for her blood pressure, and there was new reduced fetal movements as a concern that was ongoing. The ultrasound showed there was a slight slowing in growth, and the Dopplers were normal, and the bloods remained normal when we were testing for them. So this person's in every couple of days with these symptoms, with the blood pressure problems, with now the reduced fetal movements. At 35 weeks, the blood pressure was stable on the nifedipine, but she had these ongoing frontal headaches, and preeclampsia symptoms were increasing. Neuro exams were always negative, and the bloods remained stable. A couple of weeks later, 37 weeks and 3 days, she had then reduced growth, 2+ protein, ongoing headaches. The medication was being increased, but the blood pressure was not stable. The neuro exams remained normal, reflexes normal, and bloods were normal. So there was something going on preeclampsia-wise with everything else that had been going on in the pregnancy. We managed to get to 38 weeks and 2 days, and she was induced with preeclampsia because she had then ongoing unstable blood pressure, increase in facial edema, and then this pitting edema to her legs, and the increased frontal headaches and reduced fetal movements. The whole picture was just getting worse, and we just couldn't stabilize it any longer when we decided to deliver. At 38 weeks, she did manage a nice vaginal birth of a little boy. She had very minimal blood loss. She was an inpatient for 5 days due to her blood pressure and was exceptionally high postnatally. She required change in the medication, and now is at home and obviously this is kind of a couple of months on, she's recovering really well. By 6 weeks, she stopped all of her blood pressure medication, and the headaches have now self-resolved themselves. So we're now going to hear from her and see her talk about her experiences of all the time she was in triage, seeing myself and my colleagues, and just seeing how she kind of felt about that kind of travel, that journey that she went on during her pregnancy.
Hello, my name's Gemma. So my experience here of when I was pregnant wasn't the easiest of pregnancies. I had a lot of issues with basically my blood pressure. It was like up and down. I ended up getting like a virus. I ended up being quite ill through my pregnancy, and for the last maybe 10-11 weeks of my pregnancy I was here the majority of my time. So yes. So with my time with triage, so I was here quite often, I felt that when I came in I was seen very quickly. I was then triage, and then obviously they then said what was the next steps. A few times I ended up being admitted, or I'd see the doctors, or they'd check me over, and then I'd be like fine to go. But I can't fault the triage team or the whole process. I think it was great, and sorry. When I saw the ACP, I do feel I was seen a lot quicker. I do feel like I had the support and care, and I felt like I was like a person, and they really listened to what I was saying and understood what I was saying, and made sure they gave me all the help and assistance that I needed to make sure I was going to be as healthy as possible, because I also had a few other things ongoing at the time outside of my pregnancy, and I felt like they just really gave me the time and care, and that's something I wouldn't forget. So through my pregnancy wasn't the easiest of pregnancies. I had, for me, I felt like I had issue after issue. I had, in my first trimester, I got COVID, and then had a viral infection, and then I think potentially that impacted like my immune system. So in the third trimester, I had a virus, I had the flu, I had an eye ulcer, I then had issues with my blood pressure, I was hypertensive, and it was just constantly all up and down in like the last 10-11 weeks of my pregnancy. So it wasn't, to me, it wasn't the most easiest of pregnancies, and yeah, I spent a lot of time here. So I feel like the ACP gave me a lot of reviews. I had my blood pressure check. I then was set up to have it checked at home. I then had to go on the app. I can't remember what the app was called now. And so I had that. I pretty much had like a full MOT to check everything of me, because I was also having severe headaches and flashing lights, so they were worried that was preeclampsia. So I was checked a lot for that, and I felt that the care that I had was extremely thorough, and I do feel like I was extremely looked after, and I'm very grateful. So I was happy with the standard I received from the doctors. I do feel that the ACP, I do feel like it was more of, I felt like I was more of a person than a number, and I really felt like that they took an interest in everything I had to say and everything that was going on, because I also had things going on elsewhere, and that was all taken into account as well. It wasn't because I've just come in and said I've got a headache and stuff like that. It was really looked into. Until I came to Triage, I wasn't aware of the ACP role. From after having my baby Jackson, I look back and I just feel that the care that I had from the ACP was amazing. I can't thank them enough. My husband is so grateful for them as well. They were so reassuring, and they make sure I was having all the correct tests done and everything to make sure that me and my baby was healthy. So I'll be forever grateful.
Thank you for sharing that. I just think it all completely ties all together really nicely in terms of who are the people that we are doing this for, and and their experiences are just so important in terms of their pregnancy. So I think it just kind of, the whole thing just ties this whole day together in terms of what their experience is. So thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, it's a nice way to end on a reminder of what we do this for at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, the only reason that any of us get up and go into the maternity units in the morning is because we want to care for the women the best we can and give them the best outcomes that we can. So yeah, it's just that's why we do it at the end of the day. So we just have a few questions. And then we will end for the day. But I think Ashlea's going to come on as well. And so the first question that came through was from Anne. She was just asking, Ashlea, do you mind saying which trust you work in?
Yeah, no, not at all. I work at Worcestershire Acute NHS Trust, so based in the Midlands.
Thank you. And then Ginny is saying, sorry, she needs to leave to go and support the ward, but it's been a great presentation and very informative. If we want to send the QR feedback in the email, she can fill it out then when we send it. Okay, that makes sense. We'll probably do that as well, send a link to the survey in the email that goes out. And then Anne is asking if we know what the ACP apprentice levy is. I don't know, because I don't think you did the apprentice route, did you, Sam? I didn't do it. Did you, Ashlea?
No, we've got a midwife at the trust who's doing the apprentice scheme, and I think from what she said, is a lot. She's doing a lot of extra things that I didn't do. So she's having, I think, monthly or bi-monthly meetings with the university and someone from the trust, where she has to fill out kind of a progress form. What it was, I think, almost not sold as, but was that it would be a better way to get her clinical hours and non-clinical hours, which she does get, but it hasn't necessarily helped get her into a training role. And she was also saying that I think the final year of the masters is different. She won't do a dissertation like I've done. She'll do a shorter piece of work and then more of a face-to-face assessment. But I know until that point, all of the modules and everything are exactly the same.
I think the cost of it, in terms of the apprenticeship route, for my colleague, it was around about £7,000, I think, as a levy. Then on
yeah, Fiona from Northwest London has just put in the questions and comments that it's £6,500 per annum.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know in some ways, like you said, the apprentice route is great because it does give you that protected time. Sorry, she's corrected it to £6,000 per annum. But it does give you protected time to do the clinical assessments. It gives you you get the study days as paid hours. So you don't have to do the study days in your own time, which is what I did. But there's more restrictions on things like stepping off the course. So for example, I took a 3-month break because of work pressures, but if you're on the apprentice route, you can't do that. You can't just step off. It's a lot harder. And also, if you take the apprentice route, you have to stay working at the trust for the entire 3 years that it's going on. If you leave the trust, you also have to leave the apprenticeship program. So it's a lot more restrictive to do the apprenticeship route, although there are definitely pros to it. Questions? Okay. So Pippa is saying, if you apply via the NHS England Working Training and Education AP faculty, the apprenticeship levy is fully funded. So there we go. Yeah. And actually, if you apply via and get funding through NHS England, you also do get the study days funded. As part of that, they give the trust £2,500 a year to backfill while you're studying and having your supervision hours as well. But as we said before, Pip says she's happy to receive emails and questions about funding from anybody. That's it questions wise. We haven't got any more coming through. So yeah, unless any come through in the next couple of seconds. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been a really interesting day. Thank you so much, Sam. You've been amazing. I always love listening to you.
I just feel sorry for everyone who's had to hear all my presentations.
And thank you, Ashley, and thank you for stepping in and answering questions, and good luck with your new role. I hope it all gets sorted, and good luck on your journey.